hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Brave the Wild is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio. Thank you once again for joining me today here on Brave the Wild. It's dark and gloomy outside, and you get all this coronavirus stuff going on, but things are shining bright, generally speaking, for the Minnesota Wild and their future with Kevin Fiala. So, but now we get all this coronavirus stuff to talk about. I'm finally saying that word on one of my podcasts. It's the first one, the first time I'd said it. I'll be saying it tomorrow, I'm sure, when it comes to Timberwolves conversation elsewhere. So, but my goodness. Well, I mean, what a nice week for the Minnesota Wild, generally speaking. Of course, absolutely took it to the chin versus the Los Angeles Kings in a big way. Interesting strategy by the Kings that worked very nicely. Now they're on this huge winning streak and been playing way better than they did all season. Is it too little too late, or are the Kings still alive for some type of a crazy playoff run? Or, you know, because we all know what they did many years ago. Nah, they're not going on a playoff run, but they've been playing super good. I mean, they shut out the Kings, basically, or the Vegas Golden Knights. Absolutely destroyed the Wild, completely shut down Fiala, make him look bad. But generally speaking, Kevin Fiala looking more and more like that rising star that Minnesota has always wanted ever since, Gaborik started having groin injuries up the yin-yang and bad relations with Doug Risebrough, and Jacques Lemaire was kind of an up-and-down thing a little bit. Well, yeah, we have Kevin Fiala, and that's awesome. Minnesota Wild's debut started with coaching debut with Dean Evason, started with the San Jose Sharks, a 2-0 loss in Xcel Energy Center. Quite a depressing day. But then later on, you get the Minnesota Wild defeating the San Jose Sharks in San Jose in the Shark Tank. Very nice performance by Alex Stalock. This was on Thursday, March the 1st. 3 games to preview, 4 games to review. Or 3 games to review, 4 games to preview would be a little bit more appropriate. A 3-2 victory for the Minnesota Wild. A fairly entertaining game. Alex Stalock, absolutely great against his old club. Gotta love that. Ryan Suter just simply, again, putting the puck on net. A very accurate shot that ended up beating Mr. Jones over there in San Jose. Martin Jones, of course, who's been looked on as one of the more mediocre goalies out there. The Sharks and the Kings, 2 teams that were powerhouses in the Western Conference, seems like yesterday, and now they're, cellar dwellers for the most part in the Western Conference. Unfortunately for them, Jumbo Joe would end up getting his 6th goal of the year, as he's been getting mostly assists on the season. His 6th goal of the year. Happy for him that he was able to get that goal later on, but I wish he got to go to a cup contender like a Boston or something. Going back to Boston, that would have been a pretty cool story, but unfortunately not meant to be. Alex Galchenyuk. Gosh, I'll never get it right. Galinchuk, right? No, it's Alex Galchenyuk. Had a very solid week, generally speaking. And, he had the mental lapse as well. I mean, he's had mental lapses. He had multi-goal games against the Ducks. He had a goal against the Sharks. In years past, the trip to California would be like 0-3 or 0-2-1, stuff like that in the past. Or for super lucky 1-2 or something like that. But, yeah, nice, solid, successful trip to California. But is California really where you want to be right now? That's one of the havens for you-know-what. Yeah, that's one of the havens for it, unfortunately. Parisi would have his 25th goal this season. Kevin Fiala, very nice starter of the play, starting assist to Luke Cunnin, who did a beautiful backhand to Parisi, who finished it off. Then ended up being the dagger. Minnesota Wild up 3-1 before Jumbo Joe added his 6th goal of the season. But nice to see Galchenyuk. It's, basically you just look at it and pronounce it, which is kind of funny. As complicated as a name as it can be, if you just look at it, it is Galchenyuk. So I guess it's not as hard as you might think it is. Just sound it out, and you're good to go. But no, Kevin Fiala, already 31 assists on the season. As great of a goal scorer as he is, he's a hell of a passer too, which could very much mean if this guy is absolutely legit, and this isn't some kind of flash in the pan, he might be a 100-point player, which would be the first time in Minnesota Wild history. I mean, no Minnesota Wild player has ever reached 90 points in his career during a regular season with the Minnesota Wild. It's pretty amazing. Do apologize if I might seem a little bit funky, a little bit hyper right now. Obviously, it's a combination of things. It's dark. I don't usually do well when it's not, I don't really feel so hot when it's dark and there's no sunlight for a few days, and it's been really nasty here. and I had weird issues with Audacity. It wasn't doing what I wanted, so I ended up uninstalling it and reinstalling a significantly older version of it, because a brand new version came up and it wasn't doing what I wanted. It wasn't letting me record properly. I mean, it was the strangest thing I've ever seen. I couldn't figure it out, and I'm running short on time now because I got to get to work. That's the hard part. Doing a podcast before you go to work is not the easiest thing in the world sometimes, but you got to do it when you do it. And I do apologize if I seem a little bit disoriented at the moment. But a nice solid win for Minnesota as we climb closer and closer to that wild card. Will it mean anything at the end of the day? Will we be able to beat anybody other than the Vegas Golden Knights in the postseason? That's what I'm concerned about. But, hey, at least you got your budding future with Fiala. You got Kaprizov coming. It doesn't guarantee that we're going to be the greatest team ever. But, again, you look at the prospects. M&W prospects are conversations with all of our buddies. And, of course, Derek Felska as well, who follows us and, of course, does his crease and assist blog. Great guy. Absolutely great guy from Western Wisconsin. So don't worry, he's not gonna. Well, he might be a Packer fan. I've kept quiet about that. I haven't nudged him and asked him. He's gonna answer me now. I guarantee you. I haven't talked about that, but yeah, he's a Gopher fan, not a Badger fan, and all that. So that's cool. Unless he's kind of pretending to be a Gopher fan, I don't know. But again, a nice solid win for Minnesota, getting us into the postseason. Just the fear becomes, though, out of all the other teams in the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, other than the Vegas Golden Knights, would we beat Colorado? Would we beat St. Louis? Would we beat Dallas? It kind of scares me a little bit. That's the scary part about it. But Vegas, we just seem to have their number, which is cool. Winnipeg, probably we'd beat them. I mean, we've done well against them in the past. We could probably beat Vancouver in a playoff series. Calgary, yes, no. They're weird, and they usually play well against us, even though they're weird. Man, now you have two NBA players with coronavirus. Isn't that great? And, of course, both at the Jazz. Thank you, Mr. Goofball Rudy Gobert. We'll talk about that tomorrow on Timberwolves Explosion. Yeah, that's something else, though. This is not a basketball show right now, but that's a worldwide conversation. That's depressing. I hope we don't end up losing several weeks of NHL hockey, too. We'll see what happens. Stupid. It sucks. But let's talk about that stupid Saturday the 7th. Speaking of stupid, come on. When did the Kings suddenly become the Stanley Cup champion LA Kings again? Like, Kopitar looks like he's right back in his prime again. Obviously, he's a good player. He's not that old or anything, but great strategy by the LA Kings. The Kopitar line went against Kevin Fiala and rendered him useless, which is kind of scary. Sometimes it happens, like Wes Walz versus Peter Forsberg. So it can happen. And that's the thing. Like, if we played the Kings in the postseason right now, they'd probably beat us. And they're 7th place in the Pacific Division, which tells you something kind of funky. The Kings would probably beat us in the playoffs. Isn't that dumb? Doesn't that make you mad? They'd probably beat you. You know, that's kind of lame, isn't it? And they just kind of did whatever they wanted in this game. They really did. And I'm not mad at Alex Stalock. It's not like he had his best game of his life or anything. But, I mean, it was like mental lapse after mistake, after bad angle, after blah, blah, blah. I mean, Matt Dumba made a mistake. Galchenyuk made a mistake. Matt Zuccarello wound up with a couple of assists. Good for him, as he wound up having a pretty good week, to be quite honest. He was good against the Ducks, good against the Kings. So I guess I got to just keep ripping him. I'll give him another James Shepard Memorial. Maybe that'll make him play better. Greenway can be physical at times, and then he disappears, and then he's physical, and then he disappears. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be surprised with how things are shaping up. Him and Ryan Donato will be exposed to Seattle when the time comes, but luckily that's a whole year away, so we don't have to worry too quick about those guys. Luke Cunnin, I thought, had a wonderful week overall. Another goal. He is just continuing to become a better and better player. He'll probably never be a star in the NHL or anything, but he's certainly got an ability out there. He's got 30 points on the season, 15 goals, 15 assists, nice and even. One of the more unpopular players, in my opinion, with the Minnesota Wild fan base is Dustin Brown, dating back to the elbow to the forehead of Jason Pominville years ago. And it wasn't just that. He's always been kind of a semi-goon out there. Not a big fan of his. Kopitar is a hell of a player, though, and you got to respect that guy. And he was a part of those great teams. Drew Doughty, a lot of those guys still there, even Jonathan Quick, who's actually having a little bit of a renaissance after a really nasty start to the season. But he wasn't even in net. Calvin Peterson, who did a great job shutting down the Kings I keep calling them the Kings now, the Golden Knights, a couple weeks ago. Just had another good run there. Huge week huge game for Anze Kopitar, 3 points, a goal, 2 assists. Dustin Brown got a hat trick, which is disgusting, and an assist, of course. 4 points for Dustin Brown. He's Mr. King. He's Mr. Gretzky, I guess. He's the Gretzky Award for the Kings, which is disgusting to say. I'll continue to mention. Interesting gray uniforms, I suppose, if you think gray is interesting. But, they've had their runs. They've had their glory days. And they look like they're right back playing that way again, back when they used to kick our butts when they were winning the Stanley Cup and competing and all that, and competing against the Chicago Blackhawks in the West Final. Pretty amazing stuff back in the day. Jared Spurgeon was able to get his 12th goal this season again, putting the puck on net. I mean, the Wild had their patented furious rally after going down 4-1, just screwing around and trailing 4-1 early in the third period. You have your little furious rally with Spurgeon and Cunnin, making it 4-3, and you feel, my God, we just might come back and beat these guys. Wouldn't that be cool? Because we're playing so well. And it was like seconds after. It felt like seconds. It was about 2 minutes, but it literally felt like seconds. There's another defensive lapse, and Dustin Brown did whatever the bleep he wanted. It was just, I mean, he just went right around Dumba. Just went wrapped right around the guy. Dumba just took a bad angle, and that's all you got to say about it. It was a bad angle, and Dustin Brown was able to finish for his 16th goal of the season. He got the 17th for the hat trick. Kopitar, 41 assists, despite such a nasty year in Los Angeles. Again, huge surge lately, which is weird. What was this, their 5th win in a row? Again, very surprising to see them playing so well all of a sudden. But as they say, a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. And boy, are they finding nuts right now. Whew. They're playing super well. It's weird. But the empty netter, and you got to see a bunch of people losing their hats on that one, and it is what it is. I wouldn't want to throw my hat on the ice because you're never going to see it again. That's kind of sucky. That would suck. It's a cool tradition, but you'll never see it again. Unless it's a hat you don't really worry too much about and you have like better ones at home. That's the one thing. But if it's like a brand new hat and stuff, don't throw it away. Or something you've had so many wonderful memories with, I would not toss it on the ice, even if it was your favorite player like ever getting a hat trick. I can't do that. I would cry. Yeah, man. And then there was another goal. Gabriel Velarde. I mean, Curtis McDermott literally just like alley-ooped the puck in the air, like way up in the sky. I don't even know what that was. It was the funkiest little thing. And then it just lands right in front of Gabriel Velarde. It's like, who again? Second goal of the season. It's just like adding insult to injury after that hat trick by Dustin bleeping Brown to make it 6-3. Just embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. God, that was terrible. It literally insult to injury, and Stalock was just like, you've got to be kidding me. I can't even imagine what that felt like. 6 goals against. Of course, he didn't get the full 60 minutes because of the 40 seconds of empty net time. That meant absolutely nothing good for Minnesota. This is an awful game. Awful. Marcus Foligno wound up with a couple points, goal and an assist. I'm happy about that. Absolutely. Brodin is just continuing to get career highs. Every time he scores a point, it's a career high. Same with guys like Greenway, Donato, Cunnin. Every point they get is a career high. And that's nice. Fiala, obviously, as well. Fiala, no goals, no assists, -4. Did lead in all ice time, which he has been doing all the time now, which is great. Some double shifts and such. 3 minutes more than the second guy, which is Matt Zuccarello, of all people. But still, he actually played pretty well, to be quite fair. Nice to see Suter's minutes reduced significantly from the past couple of years, like 27, 26 minutes. He's down to like 22, 23, generally speaking now, as they were slightly reducing last year. And of course, coming back from that weird ankle socket injury. I'm already forgetting the name of that bone. It'll come back at some point, but it's literally a socket in your ankle injury to Ryan Suter. That took forever to heal because something like that doesn't heal right away. And it needs to heal perfectly, otherwise you're bleeped. Think about the pain and the chronic aching you'll have the rest of your life if that thing doesn't heal absolutely perfectly. Whew, boy, it's unbelievable. But chronic aching watching that stupid game, too. Let's get to a much more entertaining game, generally speaking. But you did see Devin Dubnyk in that, as, and the Wild escape with the win, which is great. Dubnyk is not... I don't know. And everybody are asking, like the Michael Russos of the world and such, Kevin Gorg, whoever the heck it is. They get on radio interviews, radio conversations. Maybe they're talking on FSN, during intermissions and such. Like, oh, both of them are coming back, as in Stalock and Dubnyk. And it's like, really? I mean, can't we move on from Dubnyk? Can't we, though? I mean, no offense, but can we move on? He can't play anymore. At least, I don't know, and I wouldn't think... I don't think a scenery change would really hurt Devin Dubnyk all that much. It might actually help. A change of scenery, Toronto, a Calgary, maybe not Montreal. You don't want to go in the fishbowl, a place like that. Toronto's a bit of a fishbowl, too. Probably shouldn't go there unless he's like the backup. But he might be a backup anywhere he goes at this point. Who knows? Which is kind of sad considering what he was just 3 years ago. But, I mean, I think he'd help a Calgary. I think he would help anybody. Maybe even just Ottawa, whatever it is. Ottawa, I don't know. Yeah, because their goalie situation. I mean, Anderson's, 40? He's like my age. And he can't play anymore. At least Dubnyk's still in his early half of his 30s, I suppose. Still got some time left, possibly. But I think we have to move on. Or, again, maybe a summer off, Maybe the summer he'll be able to kind of collect his thoughts and everything. He could come back as a good, solid backup who gets 35 games or something. Gets a significant amount of games behind Stalock next year. Because Stalock's the starter for now. But if you bring them both back, then, Kaapo Kähkönen's stuck in the AHL again. I can't imagine the frustration there. And I know you don't want to, you're always like, well, you don't want to rush a guy or you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket thinking Kaapo Kähkönen's the next Ken Dryden or Grant Fuhr or whoever, Patrick Waugh. But still, the point is, though, I'm trying to make, which I'm dragging out way the bleep too long, is, Siv, he was kind of a Siv in this game, wasn't he? I mean, he had a couple moments, but it's like you just raise the puck just a little bit, and it's just like right over his shoulder almost every other time. I mean, that's what it feels like anyway. Of course he makes stops. But 4 goals given up, and and they just seem so easy, most of them. It's just like put the puck on net, get a nice, decent scoring chance, and he doesn't make the save. With that said, Kevin Fiala makes other goalies look the same way. Like Ryan Miller, obviously, who's an old, past his prime backup now, who used to be a really good starter years ago with teams like Buffalo and such. And even a good, I won't say a good, but a solid stint in Vancouver. He was pretty much a sieve as well, but Kevin Fiala also made some great shot attempts as well. He almost got 21 minutes in the game, of course, in the overtime period where he was the hero, doing multiple things that we'll get to momentarily. Fiala, ultimately, at the end of the day, though, I mean, just, his release is unpredictable. He's able to kind of foil people. It's the kind of release and the explosion of the shot that makes him so lethal. I mean, there is an explosiveness to his shot. And again, the quickness to that release, that despite the fact you might have the angle on him, he still finds a way to get that puck into the back of the net. And that's what's so beautiful about Kevin Fiala with Minnesota. Ultimately 2 goals, but I mean, you had the early one, which felt good. You also had Galchenyuk end up scoring. Actually, we thought it was Galchenyuk. It ended up being Matt Zuccarello. So Galchenyuk ended up getting the assist. I was thinking, Galchenyuk didn't get 2 goals, did he? And yeah, I guess he didn't at the end of the day. He did get a goal much later, which put the Wild ahead. It was a big one. Victor Rask, though, man, that guy, all of his goals come at clutch times, don't they? They come at clutch moments. They absolutely do. Game-winning goals, game-tying goals, just big moments, big momentum-changing goals. As much as you might want to say about Victor Rask, he's been damn good. Again, of course, Kevin Fiala's 22nd goal of the season on the power play. Well, Wild power play has definitely stepped up of late, and that was just a gorgeous goal. Again, Zuccarello ended up scoring to tie things up. It looked like Galchenyuk, but Zuccarello ended up getting the finish on that one. It was a goal that was reviewed, but was allowed. Silverberg scored so easily early on, which had us feeling crappy. And then you had Heinen and Silverberg again. Silverberg a part of 3 goals in this one. Very solid game for him, that's for damn sure. Christian Juice, just messing around. Christian D, let's just call him, ended up getting his first goal of his season. Rickard Rakell, again, often compared to Jules Eriksson, who hasn't scored in a while, hasn't had a point in a while. Seems like he was on fire, but then this whole week, absolutely no points whatsoever. Kind of sad. But, again, pretty much every goal Devin Dubnyk gave up, it just felt like, are you kidding me? And this was after Galchenyuk and Rask ended up changing the momentum greatly. Silverberg ended up putting the Ducks ahead late in the second period. But then Victor Rask with a takeaway in the neutral zone and just kind of exploded down the ice for a guy that's not a fast skater. And then the patience on his shot and the nice release, using the defense as a screen, getting his 5th goal of the season. It was a damn good goal. I mean, that's a guy who's like saying, hey, I can still play in the NHL. You know, I mean, scratch me as you will, but I still belong in the NHL, and hopefully somebody will pick me up if I get bought out this summer, that type of thing. Because obviously there's some game to Victor Rask, believe it or not. I mean, remember, he had almost a 50-point season years ago with the Carolina Hurricanes, and he's still well under 30. Don't forget. And Galchenyuk, same thing. He's well under 30, and he had a nice play. 8th goal of the season for him. Galchenyuk, at the end of the day, another guy who's under 30, who's had his moments. He's got speed, but then the effort kind of vanishes, or he gets confused, or what. I don't know if it's like low hockey IQ. I think that's kind of part of the problem. Victor Rask, I don't know if it's low hockey IQ. I don't. He's not a bad player. Sometimes he's just slow and kind of out of it, and that's all there is to say. But when he's focused and he's locked in, Victor Rask can be pretty good sometimes. And I think, generally speaking, in the limited action he's seen this year, Victor Rask can play a little bit, and he's proven that at the end of the day, whether it's the fourth line or whatever. But here comes the overtime period after that frustrating goal given up with less than 2 minutes to play. Another save of a goal given up by Dubnyk. God bless him. Kevin Fiala draws a hooking penalty on a play that he might have scored on. Big play because he's just that good. He's just that damn good that they have to literally like trip him and such. They have to like trip him, hook him, whatever it is, in order to prevent something to happen. This and that. So you go in the power play, and I'm like thinking, you know, right when he got hooked on that play, I was like, he's going to score, isn't he? He's going to score the game winner. Like, I could just feel it, still small voice. And within just a few seconds later, all the old men on the ice, but then, no, I'm kidding. That was a different play. But at the end of the day, Kunin wins the face-off. Suter has the puck, gets it to Kunin. Fiala with that similar release. That's pretty much unstoppable right now. Was able to finish on his 23rd goal of the season. And the Minnesota Wild, actually, Koivu was out there and he did win the face-off. So, yes, that is true because of the power play situation, 4-on-3. Kevin Fiala did finish 23rd goal of the season. What an absolutely great play that was. Had us all feeling like $1 million. And there you go. I mean, just a continued conversation. The next Marian Gaborik, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he'll be better than Gaborik. Hopefully he can stay away from bleeping groin injuries and inconsistent plays and contract holdouts and dumb mistakes and this and that, stuff like that. As good as Gaborik was, he certainly wasn't a perfect player, and he never got to 100 points. I know that much, and hopefully Fiala can be the kind of guy that can actually knock on the door of 100 points one day. Wouldn't that be amazing if Kevin Fiala has 100 points in his future next year? Because I think the possibility exists that Kevin Fiala could be a 100-point player in this league, especially if he's on a line with somebody like a Kaprizov. Like, you're just going to, both of those guys being centered by a Luke Kunin or maybe somebody much better. We'll see. Maybe Hovanov's got an unbelievably great future in the NHL. Obviously, yet to be seen because he hasn't even played at the AHL yet, if he even shows up for the AHL, if you know what I mean, which I'm afraid of. Either NHL or bust type of thing with him is what his agent's been saying, or at least, that's the communication. So we'll see what happens there. But Fiala might be a 100-point guy someday. That's a vibe I'm just getting right now. So despite having the icky game against the LA Kings, the fact that he owned it and he sounds like a leader, I think Kevin Fiala should get an A on his chest very soon, depending on Koivu retiring and such. And, of course, I do think Foligno's going to at least get an A, but no, he might end up with the C on his chest moving forward, because it doesn't have to be a star player to have the C. But I do think Fiala is going to be one of the captains at some point. He's got the personality to be a captain. Not necessarily the C, but the A on his chest, absolutely. And I think that day has to come soon. And if he ends up getting the C, so be it. Right now, that's probably Foligno, possibly, if Koivu does end up retiring. Some people even go as far as to say Spurgeon. But I think Fiala deserves an A on his chest at some point. I do. At least an A, if not a C, at some point on his jersey. So, with that said, solid week for Minnesota. Yucky game against the Kings. Kevin Fiala is going to still get the Mike Modano Award. Generally speaking, I mean, the LA Kings game in general, I think that's James Shepard Memorial right there. I mean, it's just absolutely disgusting game by almost everybody. They completely overpowered the Minnesota Wild in every facet of the game. And it was disgusting and extremely frustrating at the end of the day. So that's how I have to feel there. 4 games to preview. Better get through that quickly. Then we get the prospects conversation, which is a little bit quieter. Not as many games of late because college is just kind of heading into the postseason tournaments and such. But still some good games by certain guys that are very important to the Wild future. And Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, all that good stuff. And Beckman's been dominating. And it's pretty exciting. You're starting to see some triple digits popping up. At least in the juniors. Now, hopefully, we can get a triple-digit guy in the NHL. Kevin Fiala, Kaprizov, somebody like that. Hovenov, yeah, wouldn't that be a dream come true? If even Hovenov went up with 100 points in the NHL one day. But heck, let's see how good Beckman ends up becoming too. Talk about those guys in the next segment. We are back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 2. We got a preview for 4 games, but hey, at least it's some cool teams to talk about, I suppose. Open things up tonight with the Vegas Golden Knights. Minnesota Wild had a little miniature bye, I guess, 3 days off after the Anaheim Ducks. It's like, all right, we're winning Sunday night, and we gotta wait until Thursday. Wow. Okay, well, that's why I only previewed 3 games last week, right? Yeah. Well, we got 4 games to preview this time around. The Vegas Golden Knights, maybe our postseason opponent is right now. That's exactly what things would be if Minnesota Wild hold on to the top wildcard position, which could happen. Vegas did beat us this year, to be fair, and the season series is actually tied. So you never know. Vegas might actually beat us in the postseason. We'll see what happens. We got beat by Gerald Gallant's club. Gerald Gallant, when he was still the coach, 3-2 back in December the 17th, right before Christmas there. And then the Vegas Golden Knights with Peter Dubois as head coach got beat 4-0 on Feb 11. Not that long ago. That was actually one of Bruce Boudreau's last games. I do believe that was his last victory with Minnesota, if I remember correctly. It was either his last or second last because he got let go on Valentine's Day. It was his last win. Yep, because we lost in shootout to the bleeping Rangers when we were winning the whole bleeping game. So that was exciting stuff. Just absolutely great. Power play, Minnesota and Vegas, right up there in the top third. 9th in the league for Vegas, 10th in the league for Minnesota in goals. Minnesota's 14th still because of guys like Fiala and Parisi with 25 on the year with Parisi. Still a strong season despite some up and down play. Vegas has had some great moments, some quiet moments. So they're 9th in the league in goals. Goals against 13th. And now they have a different goaltender, which I think could be a big help. Vegas was on a nice 8-game winning streak for a while before they got doused by the LA Kings and told, go back home. Well, they're on a 2-game win streak now after beating a couple of Pacific Division rivals, former Northwest Division rivals for Minnesota back in the day, Calgary and Edmonton. Cool teams. I kind of miss those games. I kind of do. So some of you might be like, yeah, it's too late at night. Yeah, but if you work when I work, usually, it's nice. And, I end up staying up till about 1 or so in the morning. Usually that's just my style. I don't like staying up any time really beyond that, but just saying. The Kings doused them, though, on March the 1st, 4-1. Then the Vegas returns right away with Robert Lehner. Robert Lehner getting a 3-0 shutout over the New Jersey Devils. And a 4-0 shutout loss to the Winnipeg Jets. How about that? On March the 6th. Ouch. That was just a couple of days ago. That was like, wow. They beat the Calgary Flames, a couple of teams I actually like quite a bit, Vegas and Calgary, and then Edmonton just most recently, a couple of days ago. Vegas, they've had a couple of days off as well, so good for them, I guess. Beating the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid's back playing again, 3-2 win in Edmonton. An impressive little road trip there for Vegas. Now they come to Xcel Energy Center. I do believe Minnesota wins this game. Love the way the Wild are playing. Love the way the Wild play against the Vegas Golden Knights, despite the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights are playing super well right now. They are 39-24-8, first place in the Pacific Division. They're the team that finally pulled away a little bit in that division, but Edmonton's knocking on the door now, and Calgary's barely hanging on to a division leader position with 79 points. Edmonton 83, and Vegas with 86 on the year. Vegas should get into the 100-point range again, hopefully for their sake. Max Pacioretty is leading the club in scoring now. Mark Stone is still out with lower body injury, unfortunately for him. So he's week to week right now. Mark Stone was their overall leading scorer. Not their all-time leading scorer yet, maybe eventually. But their overall leading scorer. He's a good goal scorer, but he's an even better passer from the wing. He's a right wing, right shot, all that. 42 assists on the season. Mark Stone's a hell of a playmaker, so he's definitely missed. Hopefully for their sake he comes back. Alex Tuck has had a very, very, very off year. Oft injured and off in general. Ryan Reeves is annoying and all that stuff. But Koivu probably could have mixed it up with him a little more rather than chirping at him. Maybe punch him in the face or something. Yeah, I agree. That's what I heard from someone locally. I won't say the name because maybe he doesn't want me to mention it. I want to mention his name with the conversation, but maybe. No, it was Derek Velska, actually. I'll say it. I don't think he minds with that. It's not like any Asian type of talk or anything. Yeah, he was frustrated with that. I understand that conversation. William Karlsson, certainly not a 43 goal scorer anymore, but 46 points, I guess. I guess they'll have to deal with that at the moment. He's definitely not scoring like he was. It was one of those flash in the pan type of years. Paul Stanley, who's been off injured in the past, has been an Iron Man this year. Knock on wood over there. Again, I know you'd rather beat them in the postseason, but I'm just saying, I'd rather beat them with healthy players. You feel better, you feel more confident. Then you might actually feel we might beat Colorado at the playoffs. And who's to say we won't beat Colorado in the playoffs? We've done it multiple times, and Colorado looked like the way, 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 way better team. Multiple times, like a cup contender back in 2003, and then kind of a cup contender with Nathan McKinnon in 2014, so what the heck? And then they had like a mediocre to decent team in 2006, and they beat us. Wow. That was some crap, wasn't it? That was some serious crap. The Wild win their division, and we get beat by Colorado. Wow. I think that was, yep. So bull crap. God, that was dumb. Shea Theodore, he's been around a bit. Paul Stanley, Nate Schmidt, the former Rovers, had a really nice run in Vegas. He's pretty much their top defenseman, believe it or not. They don't really have elite scoring power play quarterbacks over there in Vegas, do they? Just decent, solid defensemen mostly over there. Just solid, defensemen who I wouldn't think are on Spurgeon's level. But they're holding their own. They're kind of like, I don't know, like better versions of Carson Soucy, we'll say. Career potential of Carson Soucy type of guys right now. Decent team, but I think the Wild win this game, believe it or not, unless Robin Leonard's in net, because clearly he's the best goaltender on that team. 1.67 goals against average. He did get a shutout. Marc-Andre Fleury does have 5 on the year. He's hot and cold. If Marc-Andre Fleury's in net, it's either, he's got a little that Dubnyk magic sometimes. When Dubnyk was hot, he was hot. But when he's not, he's not. That type of thing. Hot, not. You get the idea. Malcolm Stepan, of course, off to Chicago at the end of the day. Robin Leonard, I think, is the kind of goaltender that can help this team win the Stanley Cup this year, possibly. And if he is in net versus the Minnesota Wild, I think it's going to be a tough go. It'll be a lower scoring game. Vegas, generally speaking, they've always been kind of a team that wins games like 3-1, 3-2, but on occasion they get hot and they go off for like five goals or something. I think Minnesota wins a quiet 3-2 victory in regulation, believe it or not. Maybe it gets to some kind of overtime and Fiala's a hero, but Kevin Fiala will be the most likely guy to score against the Vegas Golden Knights, and he will get his 24th goal of the season against Vegas, so I better move along here. I'm kind of dragging already. My bad there. Philadelphia Flyers. Oh, I don't like playing this team. I do not like playing the Philadelphia Flyers. March 14th, Saturday. Matinee. Oh, God. Yeah, matinee on the road in Philadelphia. Loss. I'm sorry. Loss. Second in the Metropolitan Division. 20 games above 500. Carter Hart is officially the goalie of the future and the present now. He was the goalie of the future for the last year and a half. 2.42 goals against average, only one shutout, which tells you how consistent he is. Brian Elliott's a solid backup who you can count on. 16-7 on the year with Brian Elliott. So even if he's in net, you might give up a couple more, you might see more scoring in the game by Minnesota, but it doesn't mean that we're going to win necessarily, because Philadelphia's got players everywhere. Thank you, Ron Hextall, and congratulations, Chuck Fletcher. You know what I'm saying? They are 1 point behind the Washington Capitals for the division lead. The same Washington Capitals that are, a cup contender, and all that crap. Yeah, it's just been unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Travis Konecny, Sean Courtier, the former Shock, Jacob Voracek, Claude Giroux, who had been the franchise player, and he's taken a step back or two, but he stayed healthy all season. Good for him. Ivan Provorov, who's been a long time long time development defenseman who's really picked it up. Obviously, he was a high end. I shouldn't even say long time, but has long been thought of as a very high end defenseman prospect in the National Hockey League. Provanov's been very solid. 36 points on the season. 13 of them goals, which is very good for a defenseman, of course. Good job from him at the end of the day. A bit of a power play quarterback, 9 assists on the power play. 7 goals, which is tied for the team lead of Claude Giroux. Good for him, for Provanov. It's a damn good hockey team, and I think the Philadelphia Flyers beat the Wild. I don't think there's any question about that. Remember earlier in the year, they really put the hammer to us. Mike Yeo is an assistant, obviously, with that team December the 14th, and the Wild were just starting to play a bit better, and we're starting to score some goals. And then you ran into Philadelphia. It was a 4-1 thrashing on December 14th, and now March 14th. So 2 whole months later, or is it actually 3 whole months later? Wow, that's been a while. I think I'm looking to a 4-2 loss for Minnesota in Philadelphia at the end of the day in Wells Fargo Center. Yes, sir. It's going to be an unfortunate thing. Most likely got to score for Minnesota against the Philadelphia Flyers. Is Eric Stahl ever going to score again? Boy, I don't know. I'm going to say Matt Dumba ends his run. He was definitely a James Shepard Memorial candidate. No scoring, and he had some bad moments, some flop defense out there, particularly against the LA Kings. Generally speaking, not a good week for Matt Dumba either. But I think Dumba will score for the first time in a while. And he'll get one of the 2 goals against the Philadelphia Flyers, but the Wild lose, unfortunately, as the Flyers, pardon the pun, are flying high right now. And there's no question about that. They might win the Stanley Cup this year. They're that good. And Carter Hart's looking like a damn good goalie. Got to move along because we got 2 more to preview. Nashville Predators, the hated Nashville Predators. Who do you think's going to score in this game? Who do you think is going to score in this game? Kevin Fiala is going to score against the Nashville Predators because he always scores against the Nashville Predators. He did last year even when he wasn't scoring against anybody. And Saros is becoming the goalie of the future and the present right now for the... it's kind of like what's going on with Pekka Rinne. It's kind of like Devin Dubnyk. He's got 3 shutouts on the year, but a 3.17 goals against average ain't going to get it done, folks. He ain't going to get it done. Luckily, neither one of them has been injured. That's why you only see 2 goalies all season. But Saros has been very solid. He's had his good moments. It's not like he's putting up spectacular numbers, though. They're kind of like Stala's numbers, 2.70. Save percentage, though, 91.4, and 4 shutouts on the season. He's had some big moments. He had shutouts recently. And, well, I mean, he's the goalie of the future and the present right now for the Nashville Predators. He's long been looked on as the goalie of the future. And he's been very strong. And then you got Roman Josi. He's the leading scorer on the team. One of the best defensemen in the NHL, if not the best defenseman in the NHL. He's a plus 22 on the season. 19 power play assists, which is absolutely spectacular. Philip Forsberg, who's had his big moments. Of course, Ryan Johansson will frustrate the bleep out of you with his cheap shootout goals. The guy will literally be at like a half a mile an hour pace, stick handling and then scoring on you, which is just a mockery of the frickin' thing. Absolute frickin' mockery. For 5th place in the Central Division, they're 9 games above 500. And they are 1 point ahead of Minnesota. Both teams have 69 games played on the season. 2 games in hand versus Winnipeg and St. Louis for Minnesota and Nashville, if that means anything. I guess it does. Yes, it does. Granlund. I know. We all call him Granlund, and yes, his name is Granlund. Doc Emmerich, blah, 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 brought that up years ago in the playoffs. Mikhail Granlund. I think that was when we were playing St. Louis in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Granlund, yes. Yes, Doc Emmerich, yes. 17 goals on the season. He's actually got less assists than goals, which is really funny. Because he was always Mr. Assist. Great puck handler, those little saucer passes, this and that. And then he's gotten some goals this year, which is crazy when you think about this statistic. He is tied for 3rd on the team in goals. That's crazy. And a guy that's kind of been a bit of a flop in Nashville compared to Kevin Fiala. There was a point earlier in the season when they were just about tied with points, and it's like, okay, Fiala's got a brighter future. Granlund, you'd expect something. And then Fiala just took off ever since. He's at, 54 points on the season for Minnesota. Absolutely spectacular. 23 of those goals, of course, and they were some of the most electrifying goals ever. Granlund had some big moments. game tying and game winning goals that helped Nashville, which frustrated us in a big way because we're competing for that playoff spot, the wild card spot, and he had those big moments. But at the end of the day, at 30 points, he's like 11th or 12th on the team in scoring basically right now. So I mean, versus what Kevin Fiala would be, he'd be second behind Roman Josi. So he might even have more points depending on who's getting him the puck over there with all those talented players. Matt Duchene, only 42 points for Matt Duchene. Huh. You know what I mean? That's all you got to say. Huh. Ryan Johansson, 36 points. 36 points. Again, Mattias Ekholm, who I talk about all the time. Love him a lot. He's like a higher scoring Brodin at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned. He's a guy who really puts on some points. He'll get on that second power play unit. He's got 5 assists on the season in that. He'll play on a second power play unit on occasion. And he can really help provide some offense on occasion. He gets in those hot streaks, and good for him. Good team. But I think the Wild need to win this game, and I think they will. It's like, if it's in Nashville, they win every time. If it's in Minnesota, we win most of the time. I expect an exciting 5-3 type of game. Kevin Fiala is going to get multiple points in the game, and there's just no doubt about it. But I expect a 5-3 type of game, especially if Pecorini's in net. Hopefully he is. If Roman Josi's in net, maybe 3-2, 4-3 shootout victory for Minnesota, or overtime victory. Maybe Fiala scores in OT. Fiala or Dumba with the game winner, but Fiala will have multiple points in the game. I tend to get that right. Usually when I talk about Fiala getting multiple points, or even Dumba one time, I was actually right about it. I couldn't believe it. But Fiala will have multiple points. I think I said Fiala will score 2 goals last time, and he did. So pretty cool. Minnesota won 3-1 on March the 3rd. Minnesota will win the will tie up the season series, and then you go to Nashville on April the 4th. Watch out there. The rubber match. Ooh-wee. The Wild actually trailed the season series after an awful start. 4-0 loss on October 24th, and a 5-2 demolition for the season opener, as we all remember very well. But then 3-1, great game for Fiala recently on March the 3rd. Awesome game for Fiala, but Wild will win. I am going to say 4-3 in an overtime period. So unfortunately, we're going to give up a point to Nashville at the end of the day, one way or another. Hopefully, we don't have to get to the shootout. Just don't get to the shootout. Kevin, score. Kevin, just score. And if it means, let's hopefully we win 5-3 at the end of the day, and there's no overtime period of any kind, because I don't want to screw around. Chicago. I don't want to play this team. I hate playing these guys. They always have their big moments. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. We all know who they are. Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves. We all know who they are. It's coming to X Energy Center. Happy Patrick's Day for Patrick. Happy St. Patrick's Day for Patrick Kane. Oh, God. You know what's going to happen, don't you? Is it going to be another hat trick for Patrick on St. Patrick's Day? Can I just be honest with you? It's going to be another hat trick for Patrick on St. Patrick's Day, isn't it? He's going to have multiple points because it's St. Patrick's Day, and St. Patrick of Chicago is going to, he's just owned the Wild forever. God bless him. He's not a bad guy at all. He's just a damn good player who gets the job done. At least he doesn't rub it in our face, that type of thing. Oh, boy, it's going to be a hat trick for Patrick. I think so. Maybe he won't get a hat trick, but maybe he'll get a goal and an assist or 2 goals or something. I'm probably 2 goals. I mean, it's every time he touches the puck, he's the Kevin Fiala versus Minnesota. Let's look at it that way. Robin Leonard actually wasn't putting up good numbers in Chicago, but it's a different team. Vegas is a much more defensive-minded team. Malcolm Subban has not been with Chicago for a whole lot. He's just been kind of hanging around, only 1 minute so far. It's been Corey Crawford all the way ever since that trade. Robin Leonard was actually splitting time with Crawford and getting some crappy minutes or having some crappy play in front of him. Still a very good save percentage, which tells you how good Robin Leonard actually is, despite the awful goals against average. It's just the defense in front of him wasn't that good. Duncan Keith is ancient, and there's a lot of young guys none of us have ever heard of, or we've heard of them a little bit, and they're not that good yet. That type of thing. Duncan Keith, 27 points, ancient history. Brandon Saad's never going to, he's the Charlie Coyle of the Blackhawks, never going to be what a lot of them hoped. I suppose that he did also have 21 goals in the year, which is respectable. He's kind of almost like a Zucker Coyle at the end of the day, a physical guy who can score. So he's like Zucker Coyle mixed together, if that makes sense. St. Patrick has 84 points on the season. He's another 100-point guy with Chicago. who can go out for whenever he wants, a hat trick at any time, 33 goals on the season, plus 8 on the year, which is by far the tops on the team. Jonathan Toews is a -2 with 60 points, 42 assists along the way, and he's won a bajillion faceoffs on the season. Patrick Kane, though, by far the best scorer on the team, even though he doesn't have the highest shooting percentage, but he gets so many shots on goal, it's not even close. I mean, he's Marion Gaborik Sr., not Jr., at the end of the day. John Quenneville, that's interesting as a member of them. Nick Seeler's been in 6 games so far. Poor guy, just like with Minnesota, 1 assist for ever frustrated scratch Nick Seeler. Hopefully he suits up against Minnesota just for his sake. Chicago's 8th in the penalty kill, but everything else they're in the bottom group pretty much. Penalty minutes, they've been fairly composed this year, 12th in the league in protecting that. But the Blackhawks are going to beat the Wild on St. Patrick's Day. I mean, I'm sorry, they're going to beat the Wild until I see otherwise. They're going to beat the Wild. The season series is actually tied, believe it or not. Chicago won in Chicago and beat the Wild. Lost to the Wild on February the 4th. I should pick a win here. I really should, and I want to. But I don't know. I just don't trust this team against Chicago. Every time you get our confidence up and we start feeling good about ourselves, Chicago rolls in, despite the fact they've been out of the mix for a while now. They just roll in, and they're the same Chicago Blackhawks that won the Cup. That's just the same team that's owned us forever, kind of like the New York Yankees and the LA Lakers years ago in the Garnett era. It's just the same old story. I think the Hawks win 4-2, something along the lines, 4-2, 4-3, 4-3. The most likely guy to score is going to be Zach Parise. He always seems to find the back of the net versus the Blackhawks. I wouldn't be surprised if Dubnyk's in net in this game, which would be even worse. I take my chances with Stalock and hope for the best. In fact, no, he's going to be a net. We don't want Dubnyk versus the Blackhawks. I think we've had enough history there. 4-3 loss, though. Patrick Kane, 2 goals, and Parise at least gets 1, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully Fiala tells everybody, shut up. Shut up. We're going to screw these guys. We're going to beat these guys no matter what they say, no matter who they think they are. We're going to take them out. We're going to tie this game up. Now we're trailing 4-3 with a minute left. Let's tie this up and let's finish these guys off and put them away once and for all and win a season series against this team. Even though it doesn't matter a whole lot at the end of the day if you can't beat them in the postseason, because we're not going to see them in the postseason this year. But because our opportunity to do that, it's a couple years away maybe at the end of the day. But we're going to need Fiala or somebody like that to really step up the way he has been and knock this team off finally, as annoying as it is. But I think they'd win. Until it happens, I think the Blackhawks win, and the Wild have a 500 week at the end of the day. That's just my guess. That's just my opinion, but I hope I'm dead off. The Wild have had much more success in National Energy Center versus Chicago than on the road, but for now I'm going to pick Chicago because it just reeks of that. Riding high, and then the Blackhawks take you out. With that said, let's talk about the prospects. I love to imitate Wally Shaver. Not bad, eh? I love Wally Shaver, play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Gophers. Let's talk to Iowa first. They've been playing adequately. The scoring's been way down. Jerry Mayhew, who did absolutely nothing, and unfortunately he's probably the top James Shepard Memorial guy last week because he was completely invisible, opportunity after opportunity, and he just did not seize it at all. Goes back to Iowa, and the Iowa Wild only scored 1 goal in the entire game. It was Luke Johnson, who's been great. He played very well in the absence of Jerry Mayhew. And the Jerry time has not happened in Minnesota, unfortunately. Hopefully you can pick it up again for Iowa and help them win a cup down there. That'd be great. Brennan Mennel now 47 points on the year. Just Mr. Consistency. Dmitry Sokolov, who continues to play better and better. Love hearing Tim Army. He's got that East Coast accent just like our friend Torch Chatty. Tim Army's awesome. Check out the latest, what do they call that? Straight from the Source, Michael Russo. Either if you have the Athletic app, there's that one where it's like a full show, or you could get it up Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all that good stuff. But great interview. If you want to hear about the prospects from him, from the source there, straight from the source, literally. When it comes to Iowa, anyway, he believes Sam Honest and Mayhew deserve opportunities in the NHL. Mayhew's had an opportunity, and unfortunately he hasn't reached it yet. 7-game stint and nothing happened. God bless him. He really talked highly of the Ham and DeWare. He believes both of those guys are absolutely NHL material. Bottom third and all that. Bottom 6 is what I'm trying to say at the end of the day for both of them. Kind of physical guys that can score in the NHL. He was comparing them to some important people back in the day. Was it Johnson on on the U.S. Olympic team, who was ever so viable. They call him the MVP of the Olympic team for the United States back in 1980 because he would be physical and could score clutch goals that matter oh so much. And that's kind of Daheim and DeWare, the double Ds you could call them for for the Iowa Wild. DeWare's had some more opportunities lately. That's why the scoring has been picking up a bit. Obviously, he was very solid for the Everett Silvertips in the WHL last year in the juniors. Again, we're going to get to see what Adam Beckman does next year, hopefully, in the AHL. I can't wait to see what Adam Beckman does, how he translates to the minor pro, or at least major minor pro, you could say. Louis Belpedio has eclipsed the century mark in terms of penalty minutes, and he did get his 20th point, 15th assist on the season. And Tim Army said exactly what I've been saying. Belpedio and Menel are completely different players, and it's plain as day. Belpedio's a guy who's, he can get some power play time, like second unit, where Menel's got to be like a top power play defenseman, that type of guy. He's got to be on the top power play unit. That's his role. He's an offensive guy who moves the puck and such, but of course sets up other players, getting the puck on net and such. He's literally a power play quarterback. 47 points, and he's got a bright future in the league. Somebody'd have to play on the offside at the end of the day, and conversation is that the Wild might move Brodin before the whole Seattle expansion situation. Maybe he ends up in Seattle in a trade with the Seattle Sea Hockeys. I don't know. I'm just messing around. Sea Sockeyes, Seattle Sockeyes, Seattle Kraken, whatever. Those might be the two possible best names. I mean, Seattle Sockeyes rolls right off your tongue, where some of the other ones not necessarily. Some of them do, some of them don't. The Seattle Rainers, it sounds cool. It actually does sound cool, and it's a mountain, and I feel so stupid about that. The winter wind is a rainer, or the Seattle wind is a rainer. Okay. Sorry, I got to cut that out. But no, Belpedio, more of a physical, intangible defenseman, like I was talking about. It's funny, Tim Army and I are, and obviously Tim Army knows a lot more about hockey than, he's forgotten more about hockey than I'll ever know, if you know what I mean. He's a pro coach and all that. But yeah, we're on the same page 100%. Though Belpedio is more of a physical, intangible defenseman who's not that little. He's about 200 pounds, and he's almost 6 foot. So he's not big, but he's not little, and he plays a big game, and he mixes it up. He would fit okay on a third pairing. He's the kind of guy that could be on a third pairing, and you're not taking away from his game. Pairing him with Carson Soucy, I think, would be pretty good. He'd be protected well as long as Carson Soucy doesn't get lost to Seattle, which could happen, or Belpedio gets lost to Seattle, who knows? But no, he couldn't. Where Soucy might. Belpedio hasn't been in the pros long enough, obviously. Still pretty new. Where, obviously we don't have to worry about the Kirill Kaprizov. Thank God we don't have to worry about protecting him, which is nice. So that way we can protect Fiala. God, wouldn't that be disgusting? Because we have to protect Zuccarello and Parisi, which is great. Would they even claim them? No. But those gosh darn Mickey frickin' no move clauses that are doing us no good whatsoever. And frankly, I don't think are doing those guys any good either. It's all bullcrap. But no, Belpedio, again, I think he'd fit in on a bottom pairing just fine. Menel could be on a second pairing or top pairing. It doesn't even matter. He would get opportunities either way, because second pairing gets plenty of time out there. I mean, do Dumba and Brodin just rot on the bench and get 9 minutes? No. And even really the bottom pairing, the third pairing gets plenty of time out there. And I think Belpedio would be a 20 to 30 point guy in the NHL and mix it up and be a factor. And he'd be a good pairing, I think, with Carson Soucy on the left side. Brennan Menel, it's going to be tough to see what happens because you can't put Dumba on the left side. And Menel has played on the left side a bit. So maybe you put Dumba and Menel together, but nah, I don't think so. I think you got to put Menel with Spurgeon if you're going to have to put somebody out of position, which is annoying. But if you're going to have to do it, Menel and Spurgeon's probably a safer bet. Though, again, you'd be two smaller guys. That's the one thing. So, God, I mean, Menel and Brodin would be a really good combination, I think. And of course, even if you want to be really crazy, Menel and Suter possibly could be a really interesting combination as well. But I guess we'll worry about that when the time comes. Kaapo Kähkönen, again, broken wrist, lunging for a puck. And Matt Robson stepped up a bit. Goals against average has now dropped below 3, so that's good. 2.97 goals against average. And Derek Maribo has, he's just, at this point, he's ECHL material, not AHL so far. Almost 3.5 goals a game thus far, which is really unfortunate, actually. So let's move on a bit. Matt Boldy's had some big moments in the collegiate postseason and such. And he stepped up so nicely, being in the top 6 now, 26 points. That's the end of his college freshman year anyway. I got to think he's going to go back next year and have a big season and then come to the AHL at the in April as such. Hope, if for his sake, hope he wins a national championship with Boston College, if not the Gophers next year. Who knows how good the Gophers might be next year, but good solid season for him. We'll look more into some of the juniors for now as well. Adam Beckman, after he reached that 100 point, I mean, he was struggling, like 98, 99, 100, finally. Okay, gosh, it took like a week. And then boom, 107. Okay, that's pretty amazing. Plus 44 in the season in 63 games, 107 points for Adam Beckman. Can't wait to see him in Iowa coming up very soon. Man, can't wait to see him suit up for the Iowa Wild. He's going to be something, I think. Or we'll see. He's not going to get top line minutes right out of the gate, Connor DeWare. So it's like that. Similar situation coming from the WHL. You're not going to get top line minutes right out of the gate. First off, for the University of Connecticut, won up at 23 points. Strong start, kind of quieted down a bit during his time for UConn. Jack McBain has finished very strong and has been very solid. He's, again, I keep seeing him as a third or fourth line center in the NHL, but a big physical dude. I could see him, Jack McBain and Nico Sturm would be like a third and fourth line. I think Sturm is third or second line. I think he's a middle stick center in the NHL. Tim Army was gushing about Nico Sturm. At the beginning of the season, he was more of a third line center for Iowa, and he's moved up to the top line, and him with Honest and Mayhew was just a thing of beauty. Unfortunately, Sturm hasn't scored a point in the last week or so, and the absence of Mayhew hasn't helped. Honest is still dominated, but things have mixed up a bit. Unfortunately, Luke Johnson has moved up into that center role, or at least on the wing side with Mennel. So it's an interesting situation going on there. McBain, I think, could be a fourth-line center in the NHL at very least. Maybe he will be third line. And Nico Sturm could be a second-line center. Him with it's going to be very interesting because I don't think Jules Ericsson's a top-line center. So he could be a second or third. It's going to be like, I think those are your centers, and then you got to get the top one. Is it Ovanov? Is Ovanov a second-line center? Again, maybe just wait for McBain to continue to develop, because I think Nico Sturm will be in the NHL next year. I do believe he will. McBain, especially if Mikko Koivu, let's say the whole name, Mikko Koivu retires, I think Nico Sturm ends up in the NHL next year, starting off in the bottom 6, third or fourth line, and eventually Jack McBain will be third or fourth line, probably fourth in the NHL. But we'll see. He's going to have to earn it in Iowa first with Tim Army. Hopefully Army stays the coach for a while, because I think he's good. I think he's really good. He's done an awesome job thus far. Marshall Warren had a playoff goal most recently. Good for him in their little tournament there. Their Hockey East tournament there for Boston College. 6 goals in the season, 11 total points. So it's certainly not the prolific scorer he was for the U.S. national team thus far. But we'll see. We will see. Guskov for the London Knights, 30 points, matched the last season, but more goal scoring this year, and down in the plus minus, unfortunately. So a bit kind of mixing it up with college and pro. Nikita Nesterenko, he just kind of picks up assists here and there lately in his postseason run with the BCHL's Chilliwack Chiefs. Good job by him, I guess, I suppose. A guy, again, who, if we lose Brodin in a trade or whatever it is, I mean, somebody's going to come up and help on the left shot and could be some kind of a decent prospect. And it might end up being Jacob Golden, a 5th-round pick in 2017, a guy who was very obscure. Most of you probably don't think about him very often. But 27 points on the season in the OHL for the Erie Otters, a team that's not very good lately. Again, they've lost a lot of star players over the years. Erie Otters used to be elite, but now they've dropped off. It's just, juniors, they come up, they come down. It's the other team's turn to be good. Golden had a quiet start to his OHL career, but 27 points this year, very solid. Looks like he could be a bit more of a power play guy long term. Not a very large guy. It is what it is. 5'11", 180. At least a couple of years ago when he was when the information was put out there. Hopefully he's put on some muscle since then. I gotta think he has. Bryce Misley, gotta love him, for the University of Vermont, finishes with 10 points in the regular season, like I was saying a couple of weeks ago. Nick Swaney, obviously, we'll see if they can win another national championship. 26 points, career high. Was banged up this year, unfortunately. Him and Sam Hench is both banged up this year. which is really frustrating. Sean Boudreas again, who, if we lose Greenway to Seattle, maybe Boudreas is the replacement, and he's on the right side, the much-needed right side, 6'5", 223, guy who could be, third line, fourth line, right winger for Minnesota. Big son of a gun, 6'5", 223, mixes it up a bit, but he can certainly score at the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League level, 79 points. I don't know how Greenway would factor there. Would he have 79 points right now? Well, with the NHL experience by now, I would hope so. That's the one thing, where Boudreas is a bit younger and more raw. But a plus 39 in the year, he's done a damn good job for Cape Breton. The Screaming Eagles, or just the Eagles now, at the end of the day. Tim Army was also gushing about Dmitry Sokolov. No doubt about it. And again, I keep going back and forth. But we're talking about prospects. We don't have to have it all perfectly organized with this league and this guy necessarily all the time. But Sokolov, big, strong, obviously a big, strong guy who's gotten better and better. He's been out of shape in the past, but he's gotten in better and better shape. He's playing more of a defensive game. He's learning the full 60, he's learning to be more of a two-way player. And that was what the problem was with Fiala at one point. You don't have to be the perfect back checker, but if you can do it more often than not, this and that, you're going to get more and more opportunities, and that's why Fiala's really taken off, other than the fact that he's realizing his skill is what it is. That's why he's become such a wonderful player for the Minnesota Wild the last few months here now. Feeling good about that in a big way, and we'll see what happens with Sokolov. He's learning some of the same stuff in Iowa right now, and I guess now they're saying Sokolov, they're saying Sokolov. Let's just call him Sokolov. It sounds better. So Dmitry Sokolov of Iowa. Again, he's had his big moments, and Tim Army was just gushing about him. And he was gushing about him, DeWeer, Brandon Dehaime, of course, and Nico Sturm. Those are the four guys he really mentioned that are legitimate NHL prospects. Sokolov was pretty much put in the back burner from guys like Russo and myself after such a disappointing start to the season, starting off in the ECHL, which is hockey purgatory for prospects, unfortunately. Though on occasion, some of those guys do end up becoming something. Jack Stadick has had a nice season down there, 32 total points. And now it looks like he might be heading to the AHL, but no games played yet for the Iowa Wild. But 32 points in 61 games, good for him. So literally like a half point a game. So like a 40-point guy potentially in an 80-point season, or in an 80-game season. And a plus 25 for a very good NL American team. Jack Stadick, he's finding that scoring touch and been the power play quarterback, top defenseman for the Allen Americans at the end of the day. So with that said, I better put an end to this for the time being, and let's get to your questions on Twitter at Brave the Wild is how you can follow that. And those of you that have, I appreciate you super very much. And a guy who's been apparently he's a super nice guy, and he follows people. He follows all the kinds of hockey people out there. Judd Zulgad, of all people, follows Brave the Wild. Really cool. He loves his hockey. He's got a big passion for it. And it's an honor to have him following Brave the Wild, just in case 1 in a million he's actually listening to the show, which would be pretty cool. It's an honor to have him on board, and welcome on board Rich Blummer as well, who joined recently, like about a week ago. Looking for the retweets. I do believe Vince Germano retweeted. There was a few, and now I lost it. Dang, I lost it. I had it up and I lost it. There was a few. Okay, yep, Derek Felska, of course, retweeted it, and he also mentioned, check out the latest Brave the Wild podcast, Fiala's emergence, and many other wild topics discussed, including fan questions as well. Check it out. Fiala, the game breaker. And I'm still jumping around in my head where I should go with this one. Chronicles podcast, thank you very much, and Vince Germano retweeting the most recent show, among a few other people after the follow and such. Judge Zulgad also gave me a follow, which is so cool. Apparently he follows a lot of hockey, like, Minnesota Wild podcasts and like blogs and stuff. But hey, I'm deeply honored. So at Brave the Wild MN hashtag BTWMN. Hashtag BTWMN is more appropriately sound if you want to have a question. Dave Johnson, welcome back, buddy. If Jared Spurgeon didn't have a no-move clause, how tradable do you think he would be with his new contract? I think he'd still be tradable. Obviously, it's expensive for a guy who's, 30 to 40-point player, but his intangibles, his leadership, his, dare I say durability, knock on wood, because he has gotten hurt before, but his general durability and his consistency is the real word I'm looking for. I think he'd still be very much tradable, honestly, if he didn't have a no-move contract, even though it's expensive, Dave. Another question, is there any scenario you can imagine where Zuccarello would waive his no-move contract and the Minnesota Wild can find a new home for him? I think so. I think it's possible, but the problem is the other team would have to be willing to take on the contract. That's the crappy part. I think it's actually harder that way, Dave, that the other team would want to take on that contract because it's still, what would it have, 4 more years on it? So that's the crappy part. But I got to think a Boston type of team would want him, a Tampa Bay type of team would want him. Unfortunately, this year it's not going to happen. That's done and dusted, as they say in Australia. Derek Felska was saying last call for questions. Yep, thank you for that. Thank you again, Derek. You're very, very helpful with that. It's awesome. Just adding these questions to the show has made it more fun for me. I can't thank you enough. Derek says, how much are the Minnesota Wild going to regret not drafting Alex Newhook instead of Matt Boldy? Well, Matt Boldy has picked it up of late, but Newhook is pretty good, isn't he? He's been awesome. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, he's got a nice future in the league, doesn't he? He's a legitimate center, where Boldy's just another left winger. Again, another left winger. We don't have enough of those in Minnesota, and I'm not even talking about hockey. But that's an inside joke. But no, and I know a lot of people have been saying that. But no, on the hockey rink, the left wingers, there's just so many, and you draft another one. But Boldy's got a future. That's the good part. Newhook could probably be the better player, yes. And there were some mock drafts that had the Wild taking him. And, and there was the Russian guy, too, that ended up slipping to the Kings. We'll see what happens there. Mike says, with Doobie playing like a hole in the wall, we have a big issue next season. We can open up $4 million in cap space with a trade to one of the select teams, or do we have to let him choose which team? One thing for sure, if he continues to play holy moly, sure is a waste. Yeah, it sure is a waste. So he's talking about Dubnyk's situation going into the offseason, where he'll be an expiring contract next season. 4.3333, you get the idea. $4 million and then all threes after it, basically, down to the penny. I'd like to move on from Dubnyk. God bless him, to the moon. I'd love to move on though, Mike. Yeah, and I know you would too. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. I keep hearing from guys like Russo that it's like and it's not me personally, just on shows. I wish he talked to me personally, but that they're both coming back, and they talk about it like it's it is what it is. I don't know. Derek Felska says, and I'd like to see him off. I'd like to see him go and get the $4 million saved one way or another if we can get a draft pick. But we'll see. I don't know. It is just an expiring, so it's not like the other team would have to commit the moon to Devin Dubnyk. It's just, hey, a resurgence after a change of scenery can't be the worst thing ever, can it? Can it though? Yep. So a good question, Mike. Thank you. Derek Felska again says, the Wild have tried to change up their broadcast this year, both on TV and the radio. Yep, which is really interesting. Even Paul Allen's going to call a game or two here. It's pretty crazy, which I'm sure you'll be good at. Which Wild TV analyst have you liked the best, and which radio play-by-play guy have you tried out? Have you liked the best? They've tried out. Have you liked the best? Well, TV analyst, oh man. They're all good. Wes Walz is like super duper honest. I love that about him. Greenlay, Greenlay, a lot of people don't like him very much. He's okay, but he's kind of whatever he is. I got to go with Lou Nanne. Even though he's kind of like, I've got to go with Lou Nanne because it's like nobody knows hockey more than him. Some people think he's terrible. Come on. He's not terrible. And yes, there's a little bit of homer this, homer that, but everybody's going to be a little bit of a homer for the team when they're broadcasting. I got to go with Lou Nanne on TV. For radio, I love Bob Kurtz. For radio, I love Bob Kurtz, man. And it'll be interesting to hear Paul Allen and such, but I love Bob Kurtz. I think he's the best of all of them still. But Joe O'Donnell did a good job, didn't he? And he's certainly got more energy. So, it's between Kurtz and O'Donnell for me at the end of the day. But Lou Nanne's the best, I think, when it comes to the TV analysis, the color commentator. I got to go with Lou. And it's nothing against anybody else. Carter's damn good, too, of course. Ryan Carter. Justin back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm sorry. I did not do that on purpose. What do you see the Wild doing with their goaltender situation in the offseason? I think I missed somebody just now. Where's Blummer? I swear I saw it. Okay, maybe it's further down. Okay, yeah, it's right under Justin. Both of them. Justin, Rich Blummer also says, will the team try to move Dubnyk in the offseason? So these are kind of related. What do you see the Wild doing in their goaltender situation in the offseason? They have to move on from Dubnyk, don't they? Knowing Bill Guerin the way he is, and how he's transparent, and he's not the kind of guy that likes to screw around, I think Dubnyk's gone. I think he finds a way to move Dubnyk somehow, some way. You can't buy everybody out. I mean, I would rather put it this way, as crazy as this might sound to some people. The way Dubnyk has been, and the way Kakinen's promising, as long as he doesn't get any more freak injuries, which is really disappointing, but it is what it is. As long as he doesn't get another freak injury, I would take my chances. Yes, this is a little bit of a tiny bit of a gamble, but not really. If you had to buy out either Dubnyk or I just call him Tuukka Rask, Victor Rask, I'd pick Dubnyk. I'd pick Dubnyk versus Rask. Plus, it's just 1 year, where Rask has got more years. Rask has been clutch, and he's not the worst guy ever. Maybe it's a dumb move, and you need to open up space for a forward, and I think you probably do. But you need to open up space for goaltending. And if you can't trust Devin Dubnyk next year, you make a move. If there is some type of feeling, if you just get a vibe that Dubnyk is going to be more focused and ready to go next year, maybe you ride out his last year and you move on from Victor Rask. But if I had to pick one of the two, with the fact that Rask has more time remaining, which would, of course, again, be more of a extended dead cap situation with Victor Rask, it would be more extended with him. So think about it that way, where Dubnyk, it'd be shorter. It'd be like 2.18 million or something for a couple of years of dead cap for just 2 years, where Rask, it might be like 3 or something, and so for about the same amount. So I'd take my chances with moving on from Dubnyk and give Kakinen a chance to be the backup, or a platoon with Eric Stahl. I'm going crazy. Eric Stahl, right? Alex Stalock. Eric Stalock. Jay Bushy says, would the Minnesota Wild be better off trying to extend Fiala this summer to stay ahead of its sum? I think so. I think so, and maybe his market value. Yeah, you keep the market value reasonable and don't let it get too expensive. I think absolutely. That's almost kind of like a Michael Russo question when Russo asked Paul Fenton last year, do you want to get ahead of the game a little bit with Jared Spurgeon? And Paul Fenton looked at him like he was an idiot. So this is a good question, Jay. This is like Michael Russo. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head with this one. I really do. I think it's the right thing to do. As long as they're able to, I say go for it. Because if he gets too expensive and you end up having to commit like $12 million a year or something, like he's the next Connor McDavid or something like that, crap. You might be screwed there at the end of the day. Well, I don't think we're going to sign him for 13 years. That's the good part. But I could see a 7-year contract, that type of thing. That's like the new maximum, we'll call it, at the end of the day. Jay Bushy, awesome question there, and I agree with you. I agree with you. If I was Bill Guerin, I think you need to get ahead of the game as long as his agent is willing to. If his agent's not, then we're screwed. But I think we've got to get it extended and get that done. I do believe he's a restricted free agent anyway, if I remember correctly. But it is a interesting situation going into the off season, though. I do believe that's all the questions, but that was a damn good one. That was a damn good one. I appreciate that one. Fiala getting ahead of the game, I think, is the right thing to do. Again, just like Spurgeon, the value went way up when other defensemen started signing, and then you end up having to sign him for a huge giant contract. It is what it is. I mean, he's a very good player. $7.5 million a year, basically, except for this last year. Yeah, well, no, that was the extension. $7.5 million plus, so almost $7.6 million for the aforementioned Spurgeon. Galchenyuk comes off the books. Maybe you keep him with a small, like $2.5 million a year, which is a possible deal. 2 years, $5 million or something. But would he even accept such a small amount? Who knows? Fiala situation? Nope, he's a restricted free agent after next year. Yes, please go for it. If long as you're allowed to, and his agent is willing to make the move now, I get going. I start the contract conversation as soon as you can with Kevin Fiala, and keep it. You just hope to keep it semi-reasonable. Don't rip him off, obviously, and have him be unhappy and pissed off and holding out. All that crap. Of course, you can't really hold out if it's a huge contract, but and as long as it's enough money, this and that. But Fiala, yeah, I mean, if you can get ahead of the game, I say go for it. Great question, Jay. That was a good one, and I think that's crucial. Thank you again. Thank you so much, Derek Felska. I'm going to give major shout-outs here to Crease and Assist, of course, the Crease and Assist blog. MNW Prospects, that's where Justin Back is from. I appreciate him so much. Brandon Quast, of course, Pavel Bennett, who founded all that. MNW Prospects, Pavel Bennett's from the Czech Republic. Absolutely spectacular Facebook page, and highly recommend it out there. We've gotten a lot of followers, the Twitter account as well. You'll see me retweeting their tweets at Brave the Wild, this and that. Give them a follow, of course, on there, and I'm a part of that Twitter account, working with them, keeping up with all the prospects, and we talk NHL, we talk AHL, ECHL, Quebec Major Junior, British Columbia, WHL, all the above, OHL. You get the idea. College prospects, all related to the Minnesota Wild. Absolutely beautiful group to be a part of. Absolutely awesome. MNW Prospects. Google it, obviously, or whatever you want to do. Of course, join the Facebook page, follow the Twitter account, and keep up and interact with us. We're all friendly guys who like to interact with you, and we love it very much. Derek Felska, Crease and Assist blog. He's been doing it for over a decade. About, was it 16 years, Derek? Oh, my goodness. 16 years, and I'm bragging that I do this for 12 years, that I've done Brave the Wild for about, 12 and a half years now, but don't forget the half part, right? 12 years, but 16 years, the Crease and Assist, like cease and desist, yep, Crease and Assist podcast, Crease and Assist blog. Do check that out and join Derek Felska. He's also a great guy. Give him a follow at Crease and Assist is the Twitter account. Great guy. He loves hockey just like the rest of us, and definitely a hockey guru out there, hockey Yoda for Minnesota Wild conversation. I can't thank you guys enough for your interaction and your friendship, and God bless all of you. We'll talk to you in a week, and hopefully the coronavirus doesn't shut everything down for us. So just pray, do the best you can, and wash your hands, and hope the players do the same. I don't want to hear any corona crap about the NHL season being suspended or canceled or any of that crap. But until then, I guess we'll find out. And regardless, there will be a show next week, so don't worry about that part.